Sid ihr das Essen, nein, wir sind die Jäger, diese Woche Angriff auf Titan. Sorry, I'm worse at German than Japanese. Attack on Titan is lucky enough to have two opening themes that everyone either agrees are great or hates reflexively. When the series first started airing, fans made a concerted effort to turn its intense opening number Guren no Yumiya into the Giles theme of anime. While it doesn't quite go with everything, there's no denying the original OP's efficacy when it comes to sticking in your brain, and amazingly the second OP, while a little less widely remixed, actually manages to outshine the first. When it comes to anime, that basically never happens. Like Haikyuu and many of Production IG's other efforts, Guren no Yumiya primarily intends to get you hyped, but as is to be expected of a universe as intricate as Attack on Titans, there's a little more meaning hidden in the intense imagery. A German chorus abruptly kicks things off as the gate of Wall Maria is broken open, and through it we see the title, but more importantly, we also see the wall framed behind a tangle of thick iron chains. The implication here is pretty obvious. The walls offer protection, but they also bind humanity as a prison. The OP introduces more or less all of the series' principal characters right out of the gate with this wide shot of them standing, looking defeated on a corpse-laden battlefield. A close-up on Eren, Mikasa, and Armin shows us how the tragedy brought on by the Titans has shaken their friendship. All three are looking at the ground, unable to meet each other's eyes, but on a beat, Mikasa looks up and locks her eyes on Eren to see how he's doing. Mikasa is, of course, the strongest character out of the main trio, and as Eren is her only family, she's always looking out for him. The way they're grouped tells you a bit about their friendship, too. Armin spends a lot of his time off thinking, while Mikasa and Eren are close to inseparable. Following this, we see a pack of Titans invading the city, shot through a bloody, shaky lens. This emulates the shooting style of found-footage horror films like Cloverfield or the Blair Witch Project, and creates an uneasy atmosphere around the Titans. In this OP, Titans are almost always shot with erratic camera work and quick edits, whereas the human soldiers are shown in more steady, deliberate shots. Take, for example, this clean, orderly shot of the soldiers standing at attention. And when I say clean, I mean almost impossibly so. The white lighting on the scenery is so harsh that it gives everything a bleached look, and the visual elements of every one of these shots are very well balanced and orderly despite being asymmetrical. The Titans, meanwhile, occupy almost exclusively dark, dingy places, which the soldiers must physically descend into in order to fight them. I don't know that there's a more literal way to show that your characters are heading into hell. This difference in style emphasizes the differences between the two sides, but what's really cool is how the two shooting styles begin to bleed into each other. When the humans have suffered a defeat or are on the back foot, their camera work gets shakier and the lighting dims, indicating that the Titans are throwing off their composure. Meanwhile, when the humans are on the offensive, the camera is steady whether there are Titans in the shot or not. For this scene of the soldiers firing on smaller Titans from up in a tower, the sides are seemingly even, so while the Titans in the foreground zip by quickly as shadows, the soldiers hold a relatively steady, well-lit position in center frame. Following the soldiers' descent, we see a flash of Titan pictures from the manga colorized like pop art and used to punctuate the strong notes of the song. Mixed in with these is a praying mantis eating a moth, one of the images that hardened Mikasa into the badass we know today by helping her to realize the world is a cruel place. One of the walls bursts apart in slow motion as Eren is sent flying into the air, the last moments of calm before the storm at the Battle of Trost. This is the last we see of the bleached color palette, which tells us that this is the moment the soldiers' ideal self-image of an organized fighting front meets the true might of the Titans. Although weirdly, the crest on the wall marks it as Wall Maria, while the Battle of Trost happened at Wall Rosé, so it's kind of unclear if this represents Eren's metaphorical awakening as a soldier, or that's just some sort of production mistake. Now, if you were charting the intensity levels of this OP and you paid attention to the last episode, you'll probably notice it follows one of those interest curves I talked about. Production IG's shows tend to be good about that, though of course it starts at a higher base level of intensity with all the murder than Haikyuu does with volleyball. You'd also notice that we're due for another peak, and holy flying deathfuck does the next segment ever deliver on that. In a single continuous shot, we see a group of soldiers soaring through the air on their 3D maneuverable gear and rushing in to kill a Titan, all synced perfectly with the music. Though it's not quite the climax of the OP, this is definitely the money shot. Even with CGI environments, creating a long action scene with complex camera movements like this is extremely difficult, but Production IG manages to nail every frame of it. The physics of every movement are absolutely spot on, giving you a sense of momentum so real you can practically feel it in your own body. This shot, along with a few others like it in the show proper, is vital in selling the 3D maneuverability maneuverable gear as a concept and allowing you to fully buy into the series' craziest action scenes. You also get an idea of each character's abilities and personalities from how they move. Annie is almost mechanically precise, Mikasa's movements have a smooth elegance to them, and Eren's running and flipping is very wild and erratic, though that doesn't stop his final drop from being precise and deadly. I'm not exaggerating when I say this is one of the single most impressive pieces of animation I've ever seen, and if you're an animator trying to put together an action segment, take notes. We've already touched on these filler clips, but they deserve a bit of extra praise for the little details, like the way the soldiers cover their ears while firing the cannon. A lesser OP would end on this clip of Eren rushing through the steam to strike out at the Colossal Titan, followed by the fade out to the Survey Corps flag, but Guren no Yumiya has another 20 seconds left for us to dissect. A single soldier flipping through the air becomes a whole unit rising up as one, and then an entire army leaping up to black out the sun. The lineup of Titans shambling through the city streets looks intimidating, but so does the mass of soldiers soaring through the sky. There's not much deeper meaning in these shots, but they do a great job of getting you hyped to see people fighting giant monsters. The climax of this OP is a montage of comic panels, shots from the show, and other footage crossfaded together, which goes by in a blur, way too fast for the eye to really catch any one detail. In addition to grabbing your attention with a burst of visual chaos, this flash cut creates subtle connections in your subconscious. For instance, when the city is shown this way and intercut with grinning Titan mouths, it starts to look like a gaping mouth itself, with the walls as teeth, about to swallow everyone up. Attack on Titan has a lot of horror elements, so evoking subconscious anxiety here is important to setting its tone. Eren brings down his sword to break up the montage, and we see our three main stars flying forward with their wire gear, which leads into a final group shot of the trainees. They stand facing away from the camera as though leaving the rest of the OP and all its chaos behind them, ready to move forward into a brighter future. Which, really, is one of the most appealing things about Attack on Titan. In spite of how bleak it can get, and it can get bleak, it carries an undercurrent of hope. If the characters really fight for it, there's a chance of reaching a better tomorrow despite the odds stacked against them. Of course, that sense of hope often just makes it harder when the series does break them, but that's a big part of what makes the tragedy work so well, too. There's a lot of hype around Guren no Yumiya, and as I hope I've shown, it really earns it, but I wasn't kidding when I said that the second OP, Jiyu no Tsubasa, manages to top it. To find out how, be sure to tune in next episode for the thrilling conclusion to this two-part series. To make sure you catch that and every episode after it, click the subscribe button and follow me on Facebook and Twitter for regular updates. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and give my other stuff a watch too. Today, the house recommends this fine deconstruction of the first opening to Spice and Wolf, made in collaboration with Acer Parenthai and aged to perfection over the last 2 months. As always, Ik der professioneller Schmerotzer Jeff Thu melde mich von uk jetzt ab Gruß von mein Mutters Keller. Yeah, I still can't speak German.